forgotten the okay, hopefully that helps now. I have been trying to prepare for this video for hours. It's taken me much longer to get ready than it should have. I'm just having a drink of coffee here, if you're wondering what I'm doing. So I thought I would hop on and share a bit of my progress with my Forever Scrappy Quilt by Garrett. I'm definitely taking my time. I've seen a couple that are finished, or a few that are finished already. I'm still keeping an eye out for fabrics, and I don't sit here and do this every day. I only try and do bits because I'm flat chat trying to sort through all these linens and things through the day and trying to manage my health and my family's helping my family. But anyway, I usually only get to do some of this either late at night in bed or waiting for appointments or in meetings or something. So far I've only got one 12-inch square completed. I'm really happy with the colours in this piece, and I'd like to try and keep that same feeling all the way through the quilt. I've got a pile of fabrics here beside me. Some of them I've used in here before, some of them I haven't. Some of them I don't know if they will go in because I really want to keep this feel. As I mentioned earlier, it's gotten quite late, and as such the sun is going down. So I have set up a light. I've got a new light. It's a very inexpensive one. And I tried to start this video earlier and the bloody light kept falling off the holder. That's what happens when you buy inexpensive equipment. So I've had to strap it on with some sticky tape to make sure it doesn't keep collapsing while I'm trying to show you this. So, just making sure I can see your comments if you are commenting. So as I mentioned, this is the only one I've completed so far. However, what I have been doing is I'm actually waiting for some interfacing to arrive. I have ordered some. Again, inexpensive interfacing. Hey! Don't yell at people, sweetheart. Hey! It's okay. Good girl. Willow. It's okay. Hey. Willow, he's gone now. It's okay. It's a good girl. It's okay. Good job. Okay. Someone walked past that she doesn't know. So what I do have is this box. My dad actually suggested this the other day. And I've got a bit of a cute story, I suppose. I showed my dad this 12-inch square the other day, and he was completely enamoured. And I don't know. I don't remember him ever being so excited to see something I've made before. And he just kept looking at it, saying how beautiful it was and how much he loved it. So that made me feel really good. And it's also given me that boost to keep working on it. Not that, you know, not that I really needed it, but the fact that Dad was so excited about it. It's interesting, my dad and I have recently been, only in the last 6 months, been doing a lot more things together, which is really cool. He's been coming op shopping with me, which I've been really enjoying, so that's a good thing. So this little box was Dad's idea. He's done this with his drafting tools and some of his other stuff. So when he pulled out some of his vintage equipment to show me the other day, we talked about how I can try and keep these bits together, and this is what he suggested, which is a great idea. I don't know why I didn't think of it. So yeah, as I was saying, I have pre-cut some pieces. Now what I've found, because I'm using, see, this is a vintage linen that's been embroidered. This one, I should talk through some of them actually. This is a beautiful 1950s doily that I didn't want to cut up, but I'm sort of thinking, and Dad even said to me, what else am I going to do with all these beautiful vintage linens I've got? They've just been stored in boxes for years. And I have been moving quite a few on, as you'd know. But I decided that it's time to start using some of them. So that was a doily. This was a pillowcase, which I absolutely adore. And I didn't want my quarter-inch seam allowance, because that was the edge of the pillowcase there. I didn't want my quarter-inch seam allowance to eat into the flowers. So what I did was stitch on, it's a bit hard to see under the interfacing, I stitched on a piece, like I cut a piece off the rest of the pillowcase and just extended it. You can see the line, you can see the line there where the fabric starts, and I've just stitched that on. So when I put my seam allowance on, I'm not going to lose as much of the flowers. This one was a table centre, a linen, vintage linen that's been hand embroidered. This was another table centre, and I've got more of this so I can use some more of that. Look at that sheen, it's gorgeous. And again, I've got the interfacing on the back. This is another linen table centre, beautiful colour. This next one is a piece I bought from Nairi. It was just a piece, it was a bit bigger than this, but she'd rescued it from a piece of work. So I don't know what it's from, quite a fine fabric. Looks a bit like linen because it's got that fine slub through it, but I think it might be cotton. So it's got the interfacing on it. Here's another piece of that. Hang on, sweetheart. Here's another piece of that pillowcase. This was part of a tablecloth. I've got a bit more of that I might put in as well. I'm not entirely sure I'll put that in it. So some of these pieces, they might not even make the cut. This was a serviette. So these blue bits will disappear by the time I do my quarter-inch seam allowance. I've got a little head poking under here. Inside. Okay, sweetheart. Hang on a minute. Come here, I'll take your lead off. Okay. Excuse me for a moment. I'm just going to open the door so she can go inside. Hang on, sweets. Hang on. Okay. Good girl. Good girl, Papa. So if you heard that, then that was her. She has speech buttons. So she was asking me to let her inside. Okay, this one's from a tablecloth, vintage linen. We've moved a bit, haven't we? Now she wants to play, the cheeky little monkey. Oops. We're a bit top heavy on this stand. Yeah, so this one was a vintage linen tablecloth that's hand embroidered. This one was a table centre embroidered one. This next one is I need to get some interfacing on this one. This is I believe, a mid-century napkin. It may have been a tablecloth, I'm not sure actually, because it was just pieces, and I bought 2 of these from Nairi, from Nairi's Bits and Bobbins. Try and get in the shot better, hey? This next one was, this was a stunning doily, and I hesitated to chop this one up, but look at it, it's just stunning. That stitching is immaculate. Look at the back of it. So it needs the interfacing on it. This next one was a napkin. It needs the interfacing, a cotton napkin, mid-century, 1950s. This was gifted to me. I think it wasn't completed. I think someone had started a coat hanger cover. It was still in pieces, and there was embroidery on one side, and then they'd started on the other. And I thought to myself, I'm never going to use a coat hanger cover like that. So I've salvaged this beautiful embroidery. It already has a bit of interfacing on it. And then I've just cut out I've tried to fussy cut some pieces. This is a fabric I bought from the Maker's Place. This is one I got from Sue at, I think it's the Vintage Linen Press, Sue Garrett, who designs this quilt. This is one I bought from her. This is another piece I bought from Sue. This is a beautiful bark cloth I bought from Sue. Some of my fussing cutting's not as accurate as I would like. I was thinking today maybe I should cut some heavy card for viewfinders so I can see what I'm actually doing. This one, it was a piece of vintage sheeting. I don't know which way it goes. This one was a mid-century tablecloth, a rayon tablecloth. Again, not sure if that yellow will go in. It might be too much yellow. Another mid-century tablecloth. This is a crepe. It's a bit modern, but I'm mindful that Sue suggested in the pattern to use green and red, so that might go in. This is a beautiful mid-century linen napkin. It's got the interfacing on it. Now this is a piece of fabric I bought from Sue. It's not, I have actually fussy cut this, would you believe? I didn't want to centralize all of them, so I've offset some. So it's sort of, like this. Oh, that's not exactly offset. Like, where's an offset one? It's like that sort of thing. Another one I've tried to offset. Now here's some of the squares that I have pieced together. There's a bit of a stain on there. I need to check that out. So that's one of my 4-inch squares. There's interfacing on the back. Now I don't know if I've mentioned this yet, but I'm doing it all by hand. I'm hand stitching it all. I've never done something like this hand stitched. This is the next one. Hello Jude, how are you? You just missed Willow. She was out here with me and stuck her head in under here and then pressed the button asking to go inside. So it's getting, I don't know if you can tell, I'm sitting out on the front veranda. The sun is going down. It's taken me much longer to get ready this afternoon for this than I had planned. Is the sound better today, Jude? Because I ended up buying an inexpensive microphone that I thought might help. It's very noisy out here tonight. So I'm just showing some of the 4-inch squares I've completed to go into my Forever Scrappy Quilt. This one doesn't have any interfacing on it yet, so I need to do that. This poor one has been deconstructed a couple of times, and I'll tell you why in a minute. Here's another one I've done. Oh good, that's excellent. I wasn't sure if it was working. It was a very inexpensive little unit, so I wasn't sure how good. I was explaining earlier, I've bought a very inexpensive light that's sitting just above here attached to the phone, and a very inexpensive stand. And by the time I get the phone, the light and the microphone carrier. The stand is top heavy and it tips over. The light keeps sliding out of the fitting, so I've actually had to sticky tape it on so it doesn't keep falling off, but that's okay, it's working. Hopefully the light will help as the sun's going down. Do you know what? These motorbikes haven't been around for months, and of course as soon as I come out to do a video. So what I was getting at is this was one of the first ones I did, and this top piece of fabric is a vintage, it's actually it's not seersucker, but it's a similar texture. I've ironed it out, I've flattened it and starched it. And this is a piece I got from Beck at So Be, and I think it was in one of the kits I bought from her. I bought some of the pinch pot kits just for the fabrics in them. I didn't actually make the pinch pots, I just wanted the fabrics. So this is very fine fabric. This is a modern fabric from So Be, and it came in a scrap backpack I bought from Beck 18 months or so ago. So it's a heavier quilting cotton. And then I had this hand embroidered doily, vintage doily, and I think it's a cotton one. It's very, very fine, very threadbare in places. And then this one is a modern petite pan. So I've got fine, heavy, which in the whole scheme of things, there's not a huge amount of difference. Like, these aren't upholstery fabrics or anything, but when I did piece it together and hand stitched it, it all warped and it pulled in quite dramatically. So it wasn't making the 4.5 inches that I needed, the finished size. So I've unpicked it. I'm just going to try and answer that now, Jude. I ended up unpicking it all, and then I've added interfacing to the back. I couldn't work out. I put on Instagram, anyone have any suggestions? And people basically just said, I'll just let it be wonky. And I didn't like that because the sides were pulling in much shorter than no, I don't think they are cut on the bias. It's just, I'm pretty sure it's just because of the different weights of fabric. So as soon as I've got that interfacing on there, it's made a huge difference. I was able to pull it back out to it's not quite, this one's not quite 4.5 inches. But I ended up making a template. It's just in here. So hopefully this poor box is falling apart. Ended up making a template. This should be 4 inches, and if I place it in the center, I should still have enough seam allowance to use this one. So what I've ended up doing when I've pieced this first one together, I've ended up using this template and drew lines on the back to try and get the correct size, and then I've hand stitched on those lines. So this one in the center is only the only one that's going to be true to size, because all the ones on the outside have still got that 1/4 inch seam allowance around the outside. But hopefully, see, that one's a little bit over, but it's worked so far, and I'm much happier with, oh, crying out loud, here we go, we're tipping over, we're top heavy. Thought I'd finally gotten a decent setup happening, and we're still having some challenges. So yeah, hopefully I can, I mean, it's still going to be wonky because of the different fabric weights and because I'm hand stitching, but hopefully it will be much more square than without the interfacing. This piece of fabric here is quite heavy. I don't know if you can see, it's a heavy woven don't know if I'd say upholstery fabric. I don't know, but it's another vintage one I got in a pack from Beck. And then, you know, this one, we've got a bark cloth here, and then that's like a 1950s rayon, and then the cotton. This one doesn't have the interfacing on it yet, so I need to get that on there. I mentioned earlier, I don't think you were here, Jude, I have ordered some more interfacing, and it hasn't arrived yet. I have been using interfacing I've had for years, and I've ended up using it all. So the other thing I've been doing, and I think, excuse me for a minute, I'm going to have another drink. I think Sue mentions in the instructions that she sits down and gets piles of fabrics ready. So I've been doing the same thing. You know, they're all the sizes for the patterns. I'm trying hard to not give away instructions because it's not my pattern, obviously, and you know, I don't want to be giving instructions on how to put this together, but I'm just trying to share where I'm at and how I'm going about doing it. This one has some interfacing. This is a piece of table center. This poor one had a lot of holes in it, so I'm glad I was able to get some out of that. This was a tablecloth, like a 1950s one, quite a thin cotton one, but someone gave it to me because it had been folded up and it looked like a mouse had chewed all the way through one section where it was folded, so there's big chunks chewed out of it. So I've rescued some of that. Here's some more of that aqua one. That was a table center. This is a doily. I need some interfacing on the back of this one. This is a piece of, now, I used to remember where all these came from, and I'm struggling a bit now. I think this was from Nairi, a piece I bought from Nairi. I ended up buying a little tin of vintage, French vintage fabrics from her. There's that crepe again. There's a bit of that bark cloth from Sue. And again, I've tried to fussy cut a lot, and I've also tried to salvage, how can I explain? If I've got large enough pieces left that aren't quite centralized, I'm trying to offset them so I'm not wasting as much fabric. Like this piece, this was a piece of that vintage sheeting again, but instead of doing the great big, you know, fussy cut water flowers in the center, I've offset that a bit to give us some more. Like this one, this is offset. We've got a bit of negative space here, so I just feel like it will help balance it a bit better. See, this one's pretty well centralized. Another bit of sheeting. I'm not sure about this piece. It seems a bit random to me, but it's got quite a bit of green in there, and Sue does say to put green in every 4-inch square if possible. This was a beautiful, stunning vintage apron from the 30s or 40s, that one. It was in excellent condition, but I tried to move them on. No one was interested, so I thought, bugger it, I'm going to use it in my quilt. This is a piece from, I think this was in one of the kits from Beck, very thin vintage cotton, so it needs some interfacing. There's a bit of Great Dane glitter on here. This is another bit from Beck and in one of the kits, and this is another one that's like a fine seersucker, but I've pressed that out nice and flat. This is a piece of vintage French, could even be antique. This came from, I think that was another bit from Nairi. I've got some from Nairi and some from Lucello, and they're very similar types of fabric. This is a beautiful, remember those duvets from I think they're from the 50s? My great uncle had one, and I always liked it because it was paisley. But this is a piece that I got from Sue, very fine again, so it's going to need interfacing. I love that piece. And then I've thrown in, this is, I think it's an Emma Newman one, this one. This is a modern quilting cotton, but Emma and Judy Newman's fabrics are, well, the ones that I've come across so far, which isn't many. They're sort of 30s, 40s reproductions. This is an old one I've had for years, very thin. I think it's a polyester cotton blend, this one. But by the time I get the interfacing on that, it'll be okay. This one is another piece, that one from Sue, that I've offset to give it a bit more character. Here's that one again. I've put these, I haven't put the same types together because they tend to stick together. This next one is from another piece I bought from Sue, and I keep going to say it's a piece of sheeting, but I'm not sure. I've got a feeling in the listing that she said it was a curtain or something. This piece, absolutely love this purple and green. This is a cushion I bought from my cousin's shop, and it was came from the 1920s, and this great big fade spots. I ended up pulling the cushion apart, and it had self-colored buttons through the middle, and where the buttons were, there's these darker spots, but I really love it, so I've been using that. There's more of that. One from Sue, another bit from Sue, more of that beautiful purple. This is the perfect color it matches my duvet that's falling apart, so I've been using little bits of it to patch up the duvet, but I'm going to run out. This is a piece I bought from Beck's shop last June for my daughter for a birthday, and she ended up giving me some of that. Another piece from Sue. This next one's a lovely one. I think I got this from Sue as well. I really like that one. Some of these I struggle to work out which way's up. Here's that green one again. This next one's a piece of, I want to say it's sheeting, but it's not. It was a piece of fabric I bought, vintage fabric I bought from the op shop. There's that one again, and there's that one again. So there's some more cut, and then I've just got, tried to do some of all the sizes. In here I need to do more because when I've gone to piece some together, I don't have enough variety. This one was an apron I bought from Emma, Emma of Pressed Linen. I think it's Pressed Linen. Beautiful little apron. It was covered in frills, and I completely deconstructed it because I love the fabric. So I've got all sorts of bits in there that I've pre-cut. The other thing I've got a basket here with sort of medium-sized bits of vintage fabrics in, and then I've got over here a pile of vintage fabrics. You can just see I pressed them all today because I was going to show you how I'd use them. And then I've got this little box. They keep coming. Okay. This is an apron I bought a couple of weeks ago. It's beautiful. Someone's gone to all the trouble to make this beautiful apron from this vintage bark cloth. Look at the bark cloth, it's stunning. And I bought it, I think it was $5. Absolutely gorgeous. I bought it so I could deconstruct it and use the bark cloth, but I don't know if I want to do that now because it's beautiful. Anyway, I bought that apron thinking that I would deconstruct it and put it in this quilt. There's another thing. Right, now I've also got bits of, where are we? Let's start here, hey? This is you can see I've already cut one out. So a 1950s hand embroidered table center that I've sacrificed for this. Here's the rest of that one that I pulled. There's one of these squares I've cut out of here. You can see it's missing. Again, I found it very difficult to cut these, but I'm on a mission to do this quilt now. The other thing I'm mindful of is when I'm harvesting from these, if they've got a crocheted edge, you might have noticed in my bucket over here, I've kept all these crocheted edges, and I try and keep at least a 1/4 inch allowance, because this is what I use in my needle books for edging, if I want to put edging on them. So I try and salvage all that as well. And these are just some bits. I've got more, I'm sure I've got more embroidered bits. You can see this one's already been cut off. The other half of this has gone into one of my vintage needle books I've been working on. You might have seen that. Here's another one. See, this one's got a hole. There's quite a few holes in this one. That actually looks like a burn to me. So hopefully I can use that. It might not be big enough, but I'd like to use that in it. And then I've got this lovely pink one. Now with this one, I don't know, where is that gone? So here's our 4-inch square. We have a 1/4 inch seam allowance around that. And then these leaves that are left over might be enough to use in another piece. So I'll look at that. I might be able to do like a 1.5 inch strip out of there, or even a 1.5 inch square. So I try and look at that as well, see what I can use, as much of it as possible. This is the other part. I was telling you I bought 2 of these from Nairi, and this is the other one. So I wasn't going to put strawberries in this. It was going to just be flowers. And then I remembered I had this, and I have a couple of little fabrics with cute little strawberries on it. And I came across another strawberry embroidery. And then on Sunday, when Dad and I went to the op shop, I found this piece. So I think this will be cut up and put in the quilt as well. I found this piece. See this with all the strawberries and blackberries, and I thought I saw cherries. I must have been seeing things. So, you know, we could use these flowers up here. We can use the berries. Look at that. That'd make a lovely, that one there. And then we've got the border down here we can use for the 1.5 inch strips. We've also got this strip here with the strawberries, and then we've also got this. So I worked out yesterday I can get quite a few of my 2.5 inch squares out of this bit. Could probably even do strips. So that bit, I ended up, I'm going to put strawberries in it as well now. So yeah, that was not the plan, but it has been evolving that way. I've also got, I've had these for a while, but I'm not sure about the colour. I'm just not convinced these are the right colours to go into this quilt. Now this bit, I didn't think I could use this, and then I saw Kathleen, how she's doing hers is putting fabric underneath there and then, you know, attaching it like I did with the cushion cover and then cutting it. So I didn't think of that. Well, I did, but not in that context. So that's another option. There's another one of those brown. It's okay, sweetheart. Someone just reversed to the letterbox, I think. Then I've got this napkin. So one of the reasons I'm showing you all this is to try and, if you are doing one of these, to think outside the square instead of just using quilting cottons. And Sue talks about this as well, but I thought I'd show you, you know, other things. See, this has been soaked, but it's covered in stains. But if I use just this bit, just that bit, there's not really any visible stains. Some of the pieces I've used, you can see stains on them, but that's okay once it's all together. And it is made up of vintage textiles, so it's going to happen, isn't it? It's okay, sweetheart, they've gone now. So back to, where was I up to? Big pile of fabrics I've got sitting there. So what I have been doing is, before I go on to that, I've got this little box that I need to tape back up because it's falling apart. I've got a few different things in here. Sweetheart, please stop yelling. That's enough. They've gone now. But what I want to show you is I don't want to show those yet because they're a surprise for someone. Gee, I'm a silly goose sometimes. Okay, so what I have been doing, because these are such precious fabrics, these vintage fabrics, and like this bit was one that Sue sent to me, and it was only a tiny bit of fabric. I've used the majority of it, and this is left over. Oh yeah, well, yeah, I think I can understand that, Jude. I was only thinking the other day, my dad's got a lot of baseball jackets, and I was thinking, because he was talking about what he's going to do with all his baseball caps when he passes. And he's got a lot of baseball jackets as well. And I was wondering if I could cut those up to make a quilt or something, but he's got so many jackets. I don't know what on earth I'm going to do. Anyway, that's, yeah, I don't know if I'd want to cut them up either. Yeah, but anyway, and he wears them all the time. He has ever since I remember. But I've got all these little bits left, and they're quite precious to me. I don't want to just toss them. I did, I've got a terrible habit of saving all these little bits. I ended up, someone bought a bag full from me recently because I'm never going to use them all. But these little bits, what I've been doing is stitching some words. So this is just a piece of vintage, get it on screen, you silly goose, vintage cotton sheeting. And I did wipe some paint on it to give it a bit more depth and texture, but you can see a little bit of the paint there. I decided there's a little bit of paint under there. The paint actually made it quite difficult to stitch through. So I'm not convinced I like that now. And I think moving forward, when I do more of these, I'll do them on linen instead of cotton because I just like the linen better, really. So I've hand stitched, I've written these words on and I've hand stitched them. And then I'm using these tiny little scraps to stitch around the words. And I suppose I can show one, even though it's a surprise for someone they haven't seen yet. And I've just made these little patches so you can stitch them onto your clothing or onto a bag or onto a jacket or something, because I just don't want to waste those beautiful fabrics. I mean, these ones aren't vintage. That one along there, that's an Emma Newman one. That's a petite pan, that red one. That's a bit of vintage apron. That's a bit of vintage apron. That's from the 90s, I think. This is a 1950s cotton. This is a bit of French linen, antique French. That's a little bit of Liberty, I believe, in there. That's another bit of petite pan. That's a bit of that, one of those vintage duvet covers. Bit of that's Fern Textiles, that one. That's a bit of vintage fabric from Beck, from a kit. So, I mean, they're not all vintage, but they're all precious fabrics to me. I really, and I like them. So I've been making these. I've got a couple more tucked away here. I've also done just random little, just stitching all the little bits together because I just don't want to waste them. So I might have to put a bit of interfacing under that one because it's a bit wonky. I've got a couple more there, but I'm not going to show you because they are a surprise for someone. And if she's watching, it's going to give it all away. I did a patch swap. So I've already sent some off to one swap partner, and my other partner is very patiently waiting for me to send these ones off to her. So yeah, I just wanted to show that I'm keeping all these little offcuts and trying to use them in something else. I've even got little bits of, where are we? I mean, whether they can be used or not, I don't know. Little bits of linen with hand embroidered bits on them from doilies. You know, possibly won't even be able to use them, but I've hung on to them. Here's another bit. This one's got a hole in it. You know, might be able to use those. Try not to screw it all up, you silly goose. Yeah, so that's what I'm doing with those. Let's put all these bits back in here to keep them safe. I've even kept, you know, off-cut bits of linen from doilies that can be reused. This is from that had the strawberries on it, the other piece from Nairi, and there's that scalloped edge that I could use on something. I don't know what yet. Here's more bits of vintage linen. This is beautiful linen, this. So, I mean, I might even be able to use this to patch up other vintage linens. I don't know, but I end up hanging on to it all, and I'm not sure why. This, if you're wondering, is a piece of vintage quilt. This came from, is it Kirsty? I apologise if I get it wrong. I should have looked. I'm hoping to get some more of these, but when Dad and I went out the other day, I bought a couple of, what are they called? One of them's a little crystal dessert bowl on a stand with a little foot with a lip, and I'm hoping to turn it into a pin cushion using one of these. Don't know if it'll work. I've never done it before. Hopefully I can get it to pull together. I also bought a depression glass dessert bowl, and it's on a stand. It doesn't have a lip, but it's a beautiful piece of glass. And I'm so tempted to keep it, but I've got so many I keep keeping because they're beautiful. So I'm hoping to make pin cushions out of those. I also bought a couple of stunning ceramic teacups and saucers because I need more of those, like a hole in the head. But these two, there's a blue one and a pink one, and they've got gold, hand-painted gold accents. They look like they're from the 50s. They're stunning. But when I got them home, I realised that they're Australian made, which doesn't happen anymore. And one of them's still got the original sticker still on the bottom, so I don't know if I actually want to use it now. They're beautiful, beautiful pair of china teacups. So getting back to what I've been doing, that needs to go in there, the lid on. So as I was saying, I've got this big pile of fabrics over here that I don't think I want to cut into tonight because it's going to be a bit of a challenge to wrangle it. I will just I want to put these back in here while I'm at it. Where has that gone? Okay, let's get that one out. It's getting very dark and the mozzies are coming out. I want something from out of here. I can't find it now. That's not it. Oh, here we go. I found it. So what I want is a friction pen. And what I've been doing is cutting out, if I can find something. Let's just try and find a small piece. Oh, they're all the very old bits I didn't want to cut into yet. What can we use? Okay, maybe I will use a bit of one of these fabrics over here. Get my glasses on so I can see what I'm doing. Now, let's use What can we use? Let's use this bit, hey? Let's start with this one. I don't think I've got any of this one cut yet. Great big hunk of fabric. So what I've been doing is turn it over so the back of it's facing me, and then just move these out of the way so I've got a bit more room. Now I don't want to always have fussy cut central pieces, so for now I might just go, well, that's a cute little bit in that corner there. So what I'm going to do is, ideally I'd put some interfacing on it first, but as I mentioned earlier, it hasn't arrived yet. So what I'm doing is just drawing, I'm looking at this piece here. Again, after I just said I'm not going to fussy cut, I'm now doing some fussy cutting. So let's turn that around. I might fiddle with this a bit because I want to try and, okay, it's not going to be centralized, but we've got an offset bit there. So that line I just drew, don't like it there, so I'm going to try and ignore it. Draw another one. And what I want is, oops, it's a bit difficult with this big ruler. So what I want is a 1.5 inch square. So what I'm doing is coming in a mil from that original line, and it's not even in the damn shot. Okay, so I'm coming in about a mil from that original line. It's the other thing that's happening here is, because this is a vintage cotton sheet, it's a bit soft and it's warping a little bit as I'm moving it around, so I'm trying to avoid that. So I've come to that, not the very first line, that last line I drew, the right angle. I've come in about a mil or two from that original line, and now I'm drawing my 1 inch. Now, why have I come in, I hear you ask? Because when I add the interfacing, I'll be able to trim it back a bit to make it the right size. I'm just checking that again. It doesn't look square. It is. So here we go. And normally I'd draw a few next to each other. Okay, so here's my, move that out of the way, hey. Let's come back out again so I'm not. So then I just come along and trim this, and again I'm cutting a bit outside that line. So once I iron on my interfacing, I can come back and trim it to the correct size. But this gives me an idea of, there we go, there's a little offset. So by the time we trim that down to our 1.5 inch and then do our 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way around, we'll just have, like, you know, I don't mind that little bit. So this is what I've been doing, and then I add them to my box here, to the pile. So then when I want to start doing some, putting some 4 inch squares together like these, I can just dive into my box and pull out some to make up these 4 inch squares. So that's what I do when I can, when I've got some time. I sit and just cut out some some pieces. Let's go back here and let's do a what can we do there? Might do that, hey? Let's do a 3.5 inch. Now these are all sizes that are used in the quilt. Let me double check. I have written, because I don't have ink in my printer, I have written bits down, and again I'm trying not to give away the pattern. So 3.5 inch by 1.5 inch. So let's do one of those, hey? Let's do a 3.5 by 1.5. Let's go back this way. It's hard with not much space. And now I'm going to go out of the shot. 3.5 by 1.5, and I've come in about 1 mil from that original line, and I'm having a look to see what will be showing on display. I've got a flower there, some leaves. I don't mind that. That should work. Draw my line, and there's a 3.5 by 1.5. Let's have a look over here beside us. There's not enough room there to do a 4.5, so let's do another 3.5. Have a look at, now what I'm doing here is I've got 1.5, so there's my 1.5 inch width to here. And I'm having a look to see what, oh, I don't mind that. Where's that line? So if I did that, I'm going to get that purple flower in, these leaves. Let's draw that line, hey? So I've come close to that last one I did. Let's just double check I'm not going to cut it off. So 3.5 will move in a mil or so on each side inside that line we just did, so I've got some wiggle room when I apply the interfacing. Now, as I mentioned earlier, normally I would put the interfacing on first before I did these lines, but it has not arrived yet, and I want to get some of this happening, so I'm not sitting around not doing it, I suppose. And then I can sort of start thinking about colours and layouts once I've got them cut up as well. Sometimes I might start to do a 4-inch square and think the colours are horrible. Okay, so that's, as you can see, that's oversized, but it's going to give me an idea, don't mind that, of what we've got and what we've got to work with. So there's quite a bit of green in there, which is good, because in the instructions it says, and again, trying not to give anything away, too much away, try to include green at least once in each block. So I'm trying to be mindful of that. When I look at this one, I've got green here and I've got green down here, so, and a bit there, so I'm happy with that. I've got green in that block. Oh, my foot's going to, it's getting very dark here. Okay, so I might just, I should do, when I do these, I'll do some of all the shapes out of most pieces. I mean, sometimes I can't because the print's too large. I mean, I could, but to me it's silly if I've got great big large flowers and I'm just cutting a 1.5 inch square out of it. So I won't do that, not this particular piece, but some of the others. So let's just fold that one up for now. And what else have I got here? We've got our strawberry one. Let's have a look at this, shall we? I'd really like to do so I can do 2.5-inch squares with this strip over here. It's a bit hard with that light reflecting, isn't it? It's not overly helpful, is it? So what I'm looking at here is with this, I do want to fussy cut this and try and get the most out of it, but also try and get the most pieces out of it as well. So let's draw on here and see what we get for now. I did some earlier and I felt like I was wasting too much of it. So now this pen I'm using, I've been using these for years before other people decide, not that I'm fabulous or anything, I'm not saying that, but I worked out many years ago when I was doing fine embroidery that these would work for this purpose. No, I worked that out because I couldn't afford to pay for the proper fabric pens. So there's a 2.5-inch. You see, can you see the line? The black line around that. So that will mainly just be that flower. I'll get little bits of the strawberry and the raspberry in once it's stitched together. And I really want to feature the fruit more than anything, but I don't want to waste that flower either. And it's right at the end. So potentially that could be one square. What else can we do here? If I go down to here, butt it up against there. The next one will be, there's something I can cover it with. So there's 2.5 to there. It's not in the center of the screen, sorry, but I think you can still see it. So that might work. Again, I don't want to shift it down too far and waste sections of this fabric because I've only got this one little strip. If I fussy cut that there, I'm going to get raspberries and strawberry flowers and a strawberry. So that might work. Let's draw that off and see how we go. And again, with this friction pen, if I decide I don't like it, I can iron it and it will go away. Although, in saying that, I was watching something the other day and they were showing how if you draw a design on your fabric and then you press it and press away your design with the friction marker, you can put your fabric in a plastic bag and stick it in the freezer for 15 minutes and apparently it comes back. I haven't tried it, but that concerns me if a bit of coldness will make it come back. So that's not bad. By the time we get our 1/4-inch seam allowance in, we'll still have the flowers there. We'll still have, 2/3 of that one showing. We'll have those bits of raspberry showing and the strawberry. So it's not too bad. Let's look at the next bit. This one I might have to shuffle down a bit. So if we go to this next one, what will we get? Oops, I've cut you off. So, well, that's not too bad either, is it? We're going to have strawberries, raspberries, and a flower in that one. That's not too bad. That might work too. Let's draw that one off. So far, we're not doing too badly. I can't see the top of that ruler, so hopefully I'm not drawing over that. No, there's a little bit of gap there. That's okay. Okay, again, I can't see the top of that. Oops, you silly goose. I don't want it that way. I want it this way. That might be a bit better. I can see that better now. So again, I've moved in about 1 mil either side there, maybe 2 mil, just to make that square a bit bigger, so when I do apply the interfacing, I can cut it down to size. So it's not too bad. I'm quite happy with those. I've got 3 out of that so far. When I did it earlier, I had to keep jumping and leaving gaps because I wasn't getting nice visual sections of the print in. But I started from the bottom last time too, so started from the top this time and it seems to be doing well. Okay, what have we got here? Let's go back out because you guys can't see much when I'm zoomed in there. Okay, what's this one going to give us? Yeah, that's not too bad either, I suppose. There'll be a little bit of that top strawberry cut off. We're still going to get those 2 flowers. We're going to get those 3 strawberries. We're going to get a couple of little raspberries. That might work too. Let's draw it off and see how we go. Okay. Let's toss this one around. And again, I've come inside 1 mil or 2 so I can cut it back once the interfacing's applied. I don't want to make them too big and waste bits of fabric. Now this next bit, I don't think we're going to have as much luck because I'd prefer to use that flower instead of cutting it off. But if we go it's going to cut straight through it. See, if I go in line, there's our 2.5 inch there. So if I move down, and I'm only going to get, let's see, yeah, I'm only going to get 2 either way anyway. So let's try and now move that up a bit because I was going to try and center the flower, but if I do that, I won't be able to get this bit. How about I try and get this bottom bit first? There's the bottom and there. Yeah, let's do it there. Again, I can change this if I'm not happy with it before I cut it, which is the beauty of using this pen. Okay, again, I've moved in a couple of mil or so on each side of those lines. Give me some wiggle room. And then let's go up and see if we can get this flower in. It's a bit tricky. I'd like to get that strawberry and that flower, but I can't fit it all in. So I think we'll concentrate on the flower, hey? Okay. And it's getting cool. My ring keeps falling off. Where's that line? Okay, again, I've come in a couple of mil, 1 mil or 2 to make that square a bit bigger than the 2.5 inch. so I can trim it back to size once the interfacing's on. So I'm quite happy with that, I think. How many did we get there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 of those. Alternatively, I've just had a thought. I wonder if I should do I could do a 2.5 by 4.5 too. Get rid of them. What would happen if I did that? A 4.5. Oh, potentially I could do that. Instead of having those two, I could do a 4.5 inch as well. We've also got all this other fabric as well. We could utilize these. We could utilize, look at all this in here. I'm going to fussy cut sections of this. I will probably be focusing on flowers and fruit. I don't want jam. I don't want the basket. I don't want those in this quilt. So I'll be focusing on the fruits and the flowers. We could come up, I don't think these are wide enough. The smallest size we have is 1.5 by 1.5 or 1.5 inch wide anyway, but I've got a feeling this is smaller along here. It is, so it's only 1 inch wide, bummer. So that strip along there is not going to be any good for us. It's not wide enough, but this bit is. So up here we can do, oops, tipping you over. Along this bit we can do a 1.5 inch. I can't see the top of that line. One and a half inch wide here, and then how long is it? Because when we get up here, it narrows again, so I can't go that whole length. I can only go to here. Oh, it's not in the screen, sorry. Gosh, I'm a dope. See, the fabric narrows here where it's been cut. So that's as far as I can take that 1.5 inch strip there. Let's bring this up a bit further. So that means I can do let's have a look. Turn it around, you silly goose. I can get get with the program. Okay. So there's a 4.5 inch length. And then I can get I can't get a 3.5 out of that. Oh, maybe. I can just get a 3.5 inch out of that. Look at that. Then there's no waste. So I've got a 4.5 inch and a 3.5 inch there. And then I've got this strip here that we can utilize. What's this bit? There might be a bit more on this side. And I'm not entirely convinced yet that this colour will work in the quilt. It might be too much light. What's the word I'm looking for? I can't remember, I'm sorry. So this again is too narrow. So 1.5 inch. We're only going to get this much up to here. And it's been cut too narrow again. One and a half inch. move in a little bit to give me some wiggle room. And then what have we got? What can we get out of here? There's a 4.5 and maybe a 1, or I can go 1, 1, 1. 1.5 inch. I probably should have, maybe I should, just wondering whether I should actually, if I'm going to do 1.5 inch, should I actually fussy cut those strawberries and try and centre them a bit more? Yeah, so I don't know, but I've got a bit there that I can use, and then I've got that strip there, and then what can we do here? How big is that bit? Do some fussy cutting in here. I like that, those strawberries there. So how big are they? 4.5 is just way too big. We lose too much. 3.5 is still a bit big. Could probably nicely fit that in a 2.5. Might lose a bit of it. Let's have a look, hey? Looking, oh, down. So if I did that as a 2.5, again, I'm moving in a couple of mil or two inside those lines I just did to give me a bit of wiggle room when I put the interfacing on. So if I was to fussy cut that at a 2.5, that's what I'd get. It's not too bad. I don't mind that. Again, remembering that there's still going to be a 1/4 inch seam allowance around that, so that will come in a little bit tighter. So that's what I'll be doing with this, just going around to see. Again, it looks like that's going to be another 2.5 inch. What's 3.5 look like? No, I get too much. I get too much of the red line and the jug. It just pulls away from. So 2.5. 2.5. So what I'm trying to look through this as a viewfinder. So I trying to use these 3 daisies as my focal point, but ideally I'd like to leave a 1/4 inch space around each flower, but that's not going to happen because that arrangement's a bit too big. So I'm trying to now centralize it as best I can within that 2.5 inch space. And again, I might change these. I might change my mind. I might decide to do different shapes, but for now, I just want to see what this looks like. And I didn't turn that the right way, you silly goose. 2.5. Okay. So that's, if I did another 2.5 inch, that's what that would look like. And I don't mind that. That's not too bad. Now, what I'm mindful of is, I'll try and bring you in a bit. I want too much of this red line, this red to show, because when I look at it from the front, I don't know if that black line will be showing through. It's not. So when we actually look at it from the front, if I have too much of that red showing through, you're going to be thinking, so if I brought it out to the 3.5 inch, that's about what you could see. And that, to me, there's too much going on. We don't want to know this jug here. We don't want to see all that red because it just doesn't look right to me. So if we come back into our, there's the line there, there's the line, we can just see it through there. So we come back into our 2.5 inch, look how much better that looks. So yeah, hopefully that's given you some kind of an idea as to how I'm going about this. And this is no hard and fast rule. I've seen other people do it very differently. Kathleen is doing paper piecing, which I haven't seen it done that way before, the way Kathleen does it, which I still haven't worked out how she's actually doing it. I have asked her to let me know. She may have, and I've missed the message possibly. But yeah, Kathleen's actually paper piecing all her squares together. I don't know if she's drawing all of her shapes on paper and cutting them out herself by hand and then doing it. I don't know. I'll have to have another look. I've seen people using their sewing machine. And I mean, potentially I could do that, but I really want to, I've always, ever since I can remember, wanted to do a quilt entirely by hand. So this is going to be it. I've also decided, so the original pattern is for a throw size rug, which consists of, I've written it down here now, I don't know what I've written. 36. I haven't written that there, have I? So 36 all up, 36 12-inch squares, which equates to 324 4-inch squares. That's the original pattern. If I want to do a double bed one, it equates to, I can't use my brain. I'm no good at my 7 times table. More. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I haven't done that correctly. I've only drawn 6 there. That should be 7, I think. Yeah, that should be 7 wide. So that needs to come out here another. That's much better balance then, isn't it? No wonder it looked odd to me. Where's that gone? Where did I put that? Where have I put that darn thing? Oh, here it is. So that should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, I think there should be another line down here. No wonder it didn't look right. So I've been thinking all along that I would like to make this big enough for my bed. So when I move, I've got a lovely new quilt for my bed. So if I were to make a double-sized one, I would need, I think it's 54, 56, 50. I'm no good at counting these at the moment. Let's have a look. No. Is it 56? Why can't I remember my bloody 7 times tables? So that's how many I'd need if I was to do a double, which turns out to be 567 4-inch squares. If I was to do a queen size one, which is my preferred size, I think, I would need Now I can't do that in my head. Far out. What is wrong with me tonight? Is it 63? However many 9x8 is, which works out to be 648 4-inch squares, which is, whew, wow, that's huge. And then king size, I'll need 729 4-inch squares. I don't think I'll go king size. I'm not going to have a king size bed, although king size would be better on a queen size bed, wouldn't it? Because you'd have more drape. So I sat there today and worked out all those sizes. So a big step up from the pattern size. I don't want to throw, I want something I can put on my bed. So the goal is either the queen or the king. I'm going to be going here forever, guys. It is so dark out here now. It's crazy. The sun's definitely gone. So I probably should think about saying goodnight because it's very hard to see anything, and pack all this up and go and get some dinner on. So hopefully, like I said, that's given you a bit of an insight into how I'm going about this quilt. I'm probably doing it the most difficult way possible. But to me, that this way makes sense to me, and potentially it's going to help me keep my squares square and help my my points aren't as great as I had hoped. And again, I've just lost my light, sorry guys, so that's not going to help. It's gone flat. I don't have interfacing on all of these because I had done it before I worked that out, but I don't know if you can see my points aren't perfect. I tried very hard to get them to meet, but for some reason that one's shifted. That one's not too bad. It's shifted a little bit. I don't know how much you can actually see now that light's gone out. So they've all shifted that fraction, even though I had them all buttered up nice. That one might be the only one that actually meets. So that's another thing I'm hoping with the interfacing, it's going to help those points meet up neatly. And it's really only when I join the 4-inch squares together that I have trouble with those points. The rest of them seem to all fit well. So now that we've lost our light, hang on, I'll try. I don't think it's going to help though. Oh, wow, my knees are sore. If I just go over and turn, I'm trying to project my voice to the phone. I don't need to because I've got a microphone on. I keep forgetting. So, okay, that's the outside light. You can see it's casting some shadow, but wow, that person needs a new fan belt, or what are they called? Drive chain these days. Don't know what sort of car it was, so didn't look. I've also got to keep an eye on my. I'm just trying to get some light here, guys. Keep an eye on my. What do you call it? The way the print orientation. I've written a note in here somewhere. Where have I written it? Directional prints. So I've got to just keep an eye on the direction of the prints to make sure I don't want any bits that are upside down or sideways, or I'd want them all facing the same way. So in saying that, I'm going to pack up. Someone's cooking their dinner and it smells really good. I'm not going to have anything flash tonight. I've got out some, I don't normally eat meat of any kind. Not not that I don't want to eat meat. It doesn't agree with me. It just doesn't agree with me at all. But in saying that, I've got some marinated chicken out for dinner. I've got a freezer full of chicken and duck for Willow. Here I am looking for my glasses case that's sitting right beside me. So I ended up getting a little bit out for myself for dinner. It probably won't go down well. Willow will probably end up with it all anyway, as she usually does. But my protein levels are very low, and there's only so much egg I can eat. So I'm going to try and eat a bit of chicken tonight, and I'm just going to serve it with some noodles because I'm sick of rice and I haven't done my shopping, so I don't have any fresh veggies except for sweet potato. I can do sweet potato. I love sweet potato. Willow's been eating a bit of that too. So if you're wondering, guys, what I'm doing, I'm just trying to pack everything up. That fit in there. Where's that lid gone? I can't find the lid of this. There it is. It's on the shelf down the bottom. The lid of that container. Now I've got my that should have gone in there, you silly goose. Here is some of the, well, most of the fabrics I've got to use in it. Again, don't know if they're all going to go in, and I'm hoping I will find more. So I'm trying to do vintage, but I've got, vintage sheet. There's that strawberry one. That's a petty pan or petite pan. This one I believe is from the 90s. This is a lovely floral I got from an op shop. Actually, that came from the sewing basket. Is that what it's called? That's, this one's 80s or 90s. This one's very old because it's only 90 centimetres wide. And I've got a heap of this poppy one. So if anyone wants some of that, let me know. Bit of Liberty. I wouldn't mind. I'd like to try and get some more Liberty. I love the neon. So I'd like to put some more of that in. Here's some of the Emma Newman. The Emma Newmans go well with what the vision I have for it because they're sort of reproduction 30s, 40s, I suppose. Another bit of petite pan with the neon. That's one from the 90s. I don't know if that will go in. That colour so far just isn't doing it for me. It's got like a lemon coloured background. Another bit of petite pan with the neon. I'd like to get a bit more of that too. That's an old one from the 90s, just a quilting cotton. This is a bit of upholstery or curtain fabric. I think that was from Sue. Another beautiful paisley from the 90s, but I don't know if that'll go in. It's just not doing it for me. This is a stunning piece of 1920s Sanderson I got in an op shop, and I just don't know if I want to cut it up. I've had it for quite a while. There's some of that bark cloth from Sue. This I got from a op shop recently. It's a broadback, and it didn't dawn on me until the other day I could use it potentially to back the quilt with, but I don't know if I've got enough now because I've cut it up. There's that 1920s cushion that I bought from my cousin. I've got that tucked under there accidentally. There's the one that I thought was a vintage sheet. That was from Sue. This is from Sue. This bit was in a scrap bag I bought from an op shop recently, but I really like that, so I'd like to put some of that in. This is a piece of linen blend from Spotlight. It's quite fine, but once I get the interfacing on, it works quite well. This is the same. linen blend from Spotlight. I only paid $1 for this piece from an op shop. Those florals might be too large, that might not work. Again, another linen blend from Spotlight. I've already cut some of this one out. This is, I'm pretty sure this one was from Sue. I've been fussy cutting that. I've even cut some strips of the blue dot, but I don't know if they'll go in because I'm trying to just have florals and strawberries now. This is a vintage apron I bought from Emma. It was covered in frill and I've just pulled it all apart because I really liked the print. It seems to be quite old. This is a piece of vintage fabric that reminds me of sheeting. It's not sheeting, it was fabric that I bought. This is a piece of Tilda I've had from when I worked in the quilt shop. I only came across it yesterday and I thought, oh, that'll work well, I think. This is actually an aqua, like a tealy colour, this little floral. And then I've got some reproduction, like 30s reproduction prints. Don't know if they'll all go in. They might be a bit full on some of them. That green's already in there, that works. More 30s reproductions, and these reproductions are just from Spotlight. They're a beautiful quality fabric though. I bought these maybe 18 months ago. Haven't had them for that long. I'm sure that was a Spotlight one too. This one was. They're really, yeah, I really like these, but again, not entirely sure they'll fit in. This little blue one does. I've put some of that in. And that one, bit of Liberty, bit more Liberty. They're in it. This green strawberries in it. I love that one. That's a Spotlight one. I haven't used any of the red yet, but I think that'll go in. That's another Spotlight one. This is one I've had from memory. This is from the 80s. And I realised it's got strawberries, so it might work. These are Debbie Mum ones I've had for years. There's a bit of stain on there, but they might work. I've got more of them. They must be hidden under there. And then that's just oh, there we go. I don't know if you can just see that. That's one of the reproduction ones from Spotlight. Oh no, that's one I got from a vintage shop, I think. There's another piece of Debbie Mum. That one there. This is one I was gifted years ago in a swap. There's a few other pieces that match that I can't see. And this is a bit from Sue. So again, just went through those to show you, to think outside the square. You don't necessarily have to just use quilting fabrics, quilting cottons. I'm just trying to get the creases out of here because I spent hours ironing these this afternoon. And there we have it. There's pile of fabrics. I probably need to go and fold up again now because I'm not going to be able to cut them all out tonight, that's for sure. And there's one last thing I want to show you before I go, which has got nothing to do with any of this. I haven't even shown you these fabrics in here. There's a heap of vintage. There's original feed sack cloth in there, flower sack. Look at that. That's a bit of Liberty Hello Kitty, and I've put that in it. I only got a tiny bit of that I bought from Beck. She brought back from Japan. Now, one last thing I want to show you is last week I was gifted some kaffir limes. Just 4 of them. This thing's a pain in the ass now, isn't it? I was gifted these kaffir limes, and I've never had a kaffir lime before, and I didn't want to just sit them in my fruit bowl and let them go to waste. So I Googled what I could do with these limes. I mean, I know you cook with them, but I didn't want them to go to waste. So I came across a fellow, oh crikey, who is overseas somewhere. I don't know where he lives. Anyway, he's got a channel, and I think he said he actually orders them in because they're very uncommon where he lives. So what he did was peel all the rind off and froze it. So I did that so I can use that in cooking at a later date. Then he juiced them all and froze the juice, and I've done that, and I've ended up using some of that juice, and it's really good because I've frozen it in these little Ziploc bags, and I can just break bits off to put in my cooking. I made a yogurt lime dressing the other night, and it was beautiful, and I chopped up some of the rind to put in it as well. Then he saved all the seeds. Gather all the seeds, you got to wash them, strain them, wash all the stuff off them. Then you've got to sit there and peel the outer coating off the seed, which is laborious. It's very difficult because they're tiny little citrus seeds, and I got sick of it. I've still got some in the bowl in there. And then you put them on a bit of paper towel, you wet the paper towel and make a little hothouse. So I made the hothouse in here, and they're actually starting to sprout, and I am so excited. I'm hoping that I will be able to get some kaffir lime plants out of this. I can give one to my son and one to my dad. I'm sure if they want more, they can have more. I know my son will use them because he does a lot of cooking. And my dad might like one just because he likes to collect plants. The fellow who did it had his on a heat mat inside, but I've just had it sitting on this bench out the front on the veranda, and it's heating up enough through the day to help them to germinate. So I'm quite ecstatic that they've germinated and it's working. So I've just got to keep them going and make sure they sprout enough so I can actually plant them. And I do have a little mini hothouse over there that I'll have to clean out, and I think I'll grow them in there if I can until they're big enough to plant out. But anyway, I was gifted this the other day, and the poor person that bought it for me, it wasn't the fabric that they thought it was. So it gets dirty very easily. It was going to go in my my bag I take on the fire truck, but it's not really appropriate for that. So I've just got I'm just keeping my lavalier and my light and my stuff in it for doing the videos. Anyway, that's it, guys. I'm gonna go and pack this up and get some dinner on. So thank you so very much to all of you who joined me. I hope that you may have learned something. I hope I haven't bored you silly. I hope I've got very backwards ways of piecing things together. So anyway, thank you again. And as always, if you've got any questions, if you want to know anything else that I may have missed, if you want me to clarify anything because my head's not working overly well at the moment, just leave some comments. And this will take a while. I'll upload it. It'll take a while to upload because the internet here is dreadful at the moment. And then I'll come back and put a heading and then put some information in there. And and then you can leave comments or questions. So thank you again for joining me. And I hope you're all well. And I hope you have a wonderful remainder of your week. And I'll see you next time.